Hello students, how are you? In the previous video we were talking about cropping pattern. Okay, in this video we will be discussing the next topic, that is crop production management. As the word suggests, that the management of the crop that is produced. Factors that can affect the production of crops are weeds, pests and diseases. Means these are the factors that can affect the production, or you can say decrease the production of the crops. Okay, because they destroy the crops. Weeds. Along with crops, sometimes some other plants also grow up which are not needed. These are called weeds. Weeds can affect the crop as they utilize nutrients from the soil that are meant to be used by the crops. See, definitely if any plant will be growing in the soil, it will be requiring nutrients, whether it is weed or any other. If we are sowing any crop and with it the weed is also growing, then the nutrients that is required by the soil, that can also be used by the weeds. And if that nutrient will be used by the weeds, then the crop will not get the proper nutrients, or you can say the nourishment. Clear? So that's why how the weeds can affect the production of the crops. Along with crops, some plants which are not needed, they also grow up. These are called weeds. And how they can affect the crop? They can affect the crop as they utilize the nutrients from the soil that are meant to be used by the crops. Now what are the weed control methods? First, weedicides are sprayed on the fields that can kill them as they do not harm any crops. Second, weeds can be uprooted manually by the farmers. The crop is sown timely and not affected by weeds. Using different methods of cropping such as crop rotation and intercropping also reduce the chances of growing weeds. Okay, so these are the some control methods that are used to control the weeds. First, the weedicides are sprayed so that they can kill and they do not harm crops. Weed can be uprooted manually also. Okay, you might have seen farmers uprooting the weeds with their hands, that is manually. The crop is sown timely, they are not affected by the weeds. And using different methods of cropping such as crop rotation and intercropping also reduce the chances of growing weeds. Okay, this one, uprooting weeds manually. Second factor that can affect the crops is pests. Let's discuss about the pests. Water pests. Several insects and pests can affect the crops in different ways. Okay, what are these? They can, or how they can cut the parts of the crops like fruit, leaves and stem, because we can say they feed on them. They can get into the stems and roots of the plants. They suck the cell sap of the plants and hence destroy them. What is the cell sap? Okay, you might have studied in the fundamental unit of life chapter that the cell sap, it includes some important substances for the cell, with the help of which the cell can produce energy. Okay, so that is, if the cell sap is sucked by them, then definitely no substance will be remaining for the cell and the cell cannot produce the energy. So in what way the pest can affect? They can cut the parts of the crops like fruits, leaves and stems. They can get into the stems and roots of the plants and they can suck the cell sap. Now what are the pest controlling methods? Means how do we control these pests? See, pesticides and insecticides are sprayed on the fields to kill germs. Second, crops should be checked timely to ensure safety against pests. Usage of effective cropping methods, again they also helps in the management of the pest or insects. And sometimes summer plugging is also used to destroy the weeds and pests. Okay, so these are the some pest controlling methods. Read these points again as they are very important and then we will be moving forward. So you can see the pest management, prevention, and how to identify. We have to first identify the symptoms about the pest, that there is a pest attack on the plant. Okay, regular observation need to be done, and the best management practices should be followed so that we can get rid of the pests. Third, and the next is the diseases. Okay, we have discussed about the weeds, we have discussed about the pests, and now it's time for the diseases. Microorganisms such as fungi, bacteria, and viruses often attack the crops and affect them. These pathogens can be transmitted to the crops via soil, water, or air. You already know what are pathogens that cause diseases. Okay, so these are the pathogens, and the microorganisms like fungi, bacteria, and viruses, they often attack crops and affect them. Now, how to manage the disease causing organism, or we can say the disease management methods. First, selecting the crop that suits the temperature and climatic condition of the place. It's very important that we sow the crop which is suitable for a particular type of climate. Okay, otherwise it is very prone to have or to occur loss in the crops. Second, planting the seeds on the right time and in an environment that favors their growth. Using herbicides such as dicamba and glufosinate, ammonium, and fertilizers such as ammonium nitrate, potassium sulfate. Okay, so these are all the herbicides, or you can say the chemicals which kill the disease causing microorganism, and using crop rotation method and mixed cropping. Okay, so one thing you find in common, that whether it is pest, weeds, or diseases, if you follow some cropping patterns like mixed cropping or crop rotation, then you can easily prevent your crop from losses. Clear? So these were the three: crop management or the crop production management, that how to protect your crops from pests, weeds, or diseases. I hope it is clear to all of you. Now, after the production, the factor that comes is storage of grains. You know, in India, a lot of amount of wheat, rice are produced. It is not so that the whole amount of wheat or rice is consumed at once. Okay, they are also sometimes stored. So what are the factors that lead to the storage losses of crops? Means if the crops are stored, then also they can be lost. How? So there are two types of factors, that is the biotic factors and the abiotic factors. Biotic, the bio terms, again I have told you many times that it means living. So living factors like insects, fungi, bacteria, rodents, and mites. And the abiotic factors like excessive temperature and moisture, humidity, you know. Okay, so these are the two factors that can lead. For example, biotic factors, they can cause like they can act as pests, weeds, or you can say disease causing also, and they can feed on them. So okay, biotic factors and the abiotic factors. Now, how to prevent this storage loss? First, very important, maintaining the storage houses properly, means cleanliness and all the things. Second, cleaning the grains properly before storage. Whatever the items, be it wheat or anything, you have to wash it, or you can say cleaning it properly before storing. And then drying the grains properly before storage in sunlight as well as in the shade. Now, why drying? Because so that the excessive temperature or the moisture could not affect the crop. Otherwise, if they will be wet or they will not be dried, then the moisture can affect them easily. Okay, so these are the some strategies to prevent storage loss. Very important: maintaining the storage houses properly, cleaning the grains properly before storage, and drying the grains properly before storage in sunlight as well as in the shade. Now, next topic is animal husbandry. Very important topic with regards to this chapter. Now, in agriculture, animal husbandry is a special field that deals with rising of livestock in a controlled, selective environment by providing them with the right care so that they can stay healthy and disease free. Okay. Now, the rising of livestock means living and in controlled selective environment. What is controlled selective environment? Means giving a proper environment, a environment that is suitable for their growth. Okay, so in agriculture it is a special field. Animal husbandry is a special field which deals with rising of livestock in controlled and selective environment. There is need to improve livestock production because the population of India is tremendously increasing. and this means an increase in demand for eggs, milk and meat. Okay, so why animal husbandry is very important, or why it is need to improve? It is need to improve the production, or the, you can say, the quality also, because the population of India is tremendously increasing and there will be an increase in demand for these kinds of products like eggs, milk and meat. Now we'll talk one by one what does the animal husbandry includes. Okay, first one is the cattle farming. Many of you, or I would say most of you, would be aware of the cattle farming. Okay, in one or the other way you might have seen the cattle farming, or at your home also cattle farming might be done. Cattle are used for two reasons. First, they provide milk, and second, they work as draught labor in the fields. Okay, now what are milch animals that provide milk? The animals that provide milk are called milch animals. Draught animals, animals that work in the fields for irrigation, carting and tiling, are called draught animals. Okay, so you need to remember these words. Why I said? Because see, in India, which is the large population is dependent on the agriculture, so most of you might have seen the cattle farming practices also. Clear? So they are used for two reasons: providing milk and working as labor in the fields. Milch animals and draught animals, I hope it is clear to you. This is how does cattle farming look at a large scale. Okay, this is the cattle farming at large scale. Now, can we, a very important question is, can we increase milk production in cattle? The milk production can be enhanced by increasing the lactation period in the cattle. Now, second, crossbreeding of foreign breeds and local breeds can provide cattle with qualities of increased lactation period and resistance to diseases. Now, what is lactation period? The period in which the cattle produces the milk, that is the lactation period. Okay, so the milk production, if it is increased, the period is increased, then definitely the milk production will be increased. And crossbreeding with foreign breeds and local breeds. So what will happen? The good characteristics, if they are crossed, so that the high milk producing quality of the foreign breed is crossed with the local breeds, then that also provide the cattle with qualities of increased lactation period, and also very important, that is resistant to diseases, that they will not catch the disease easily. Next, shelters of the cattle should be kept neat and clean in order to keep the cattle healthy. This is very important, one of the most important reasons. Next, the cattle should be kept clean and should be provided with a covered shelter that can protect them from harsh weather. And the floor of the shelters need to be kept dry and clean, because more the healthy and hygienic conditions, then more we can get the production of the milk from the cattle, because more they will remain healthy and more they will produce the milk. Okay. Now, what are the food requirements of dairy animals? Maintenance requirements, the food that is required to keep the animal healthy, and the milk production requirement, that is the food that is needed in the lactation period. So there are two types of food requirements. First, that is required during the maintenance time, means that is required to keep the animal healthy, and second, during the lactation period. Now, animal feeds: roughage, that contains fiber; concentrates, that contains low fiber but high nutritional value; and feed additives, which includes food that contain micronutrients that can promote health and milk production. So these are the three types of animal feeds: roughage, concentrates and feed additives. Roughage, it contains fibers only, okay, that is needed for keeping the animal healthy or normal processes. Then concentrates, that contains low fiber but high nutrition value, so the nutritions from the concentrates. And feed additives, as it is told, include food that contains micronutrients. Okay, there are two kinds of nutrient, macro and the micronutrients. The nutrients that are required in large quantity are macro, whereas required in the less quantity, these are micro. But it is not that they are not important. Okay, all the types of nutrients are important. It is only about the quantity, that they are required in the less quantity. So feed additives include food that contains micronutrients that can promote health and milk production. Clear? Now, protecting the cattle from diseases. Diseases can lead to reduction in the production of milk and even the death of cattle. Mainly, parasites can affect the health of cattle, and these parasites can be found in animals or they may attack them externally. The internal parasites generally damage the liver and stomach of these animals, for example, worms and flukes. The external parasites cause skin diseases in cattle. Sometimes bacteria and virus also cause several diseases in the cattle. A good way to prevent diseases is vaccination. Okay, so these are the points that is telling that what are the different types of diseases, or what are the different ways due to which the cattle can catch disease. Okay, the disease, and it can lead to the less production of the milk also, or even the death of the cattle. So a good way to prevent disease is vaccination. Okay, next that comes in animal husbandry after this is poultry farming. Poultry farming includes different kinds of domesticated birds, that are chicken, duck, goose, pigeon, turkey. Now why it is done for, as we discussed in the cattle, it is done mainly for getting eggs through layers and getting chicken meat through broilers. Okay, so mainly for two purposes, eggs and meat. Now example of poultry birds: indigenous breeds, that is Asil and Burosa, indigenous, and the foreign breeds, that is outside one, Leghorn and Black Minorca. Clear? So you need to remember the name. Now, crossbreeding is a way to achieve this. Generally, foreign breeds of chicken are crossed with Indian breeds to achieve high quality. Means it is showing that how we can achieve high quality or good quality of eggs and meat. Now, it thus has better traits, such as, what are the better traits? Increase in number of chicks, means the reproduction value is high. They can tolerate high temperature. They do not require much maintenance, and they can survive cheap diets also. Okay, why it is done? So as to achieve higher good variety. They are crossed with Indian breeds to achieve high quality. Egg and broiler production. Broiler chicken, they need a diet with a high quality of vitamins A and K, proteins and fats. They need special care to maintain feathering and avoiding death, and proper hygiene and temperature conditions should be provided to the broiler chicken. Layers, they do not require such nutrient rich diet, they just need a controlled diet, and the layers require more space and lightening as compared to the broilers. So egg and broiler production, these are the important points that need to be taken care of while feeding them or while keeping them. Disease control methods again should also be adopted, because they are also vulnerable to the diseases. It should be adapted against the diseases that are generally caused by bacteria, fungi, parasites. Disinfectants, very important. The disinfectants can be sprayed regularly to avoid such diseases. Now sometimes the deficiency of nutrition can also cause disease, and vaccination is a good way to protect the poultry fowl from disease. Clear? So we have discussed two types of animal husbandry, that is cattle, and the next one, poultry farming. Third one, the fish production, again one of the most important. Now fish can be obtained in two ways: from natural resources by capturing fishes, or from fish farming, that is the culture of fishing. What is the culture of fish? That the fishes are grown. Now, marine fisheries. Marine fish are caught using fish nets and mechanical capturing techniques. Now, what is the main source of marine fish? Marine fish, that is the salty water, so that will definitely come from the sea. So the main source of marine fishes is marine water or salt water. Generally, large number of fishes can be captured at a time through mariculture. Examples of marine fisheries: tuna, Bombay duck, and prawns. Okay. Inland fisheries, these are found in lakes, ponds, lagoons, and rivers. The main source of inland fisheries is fresh water. The yield is not as high in these sources, and hence large number of fishes are captured through aquaculture. Example: silver carp and common carp. So two types of fisheries: the marine fisheries and the inland fisheries. I hope it is clear to you. You just need to remember the points that is given in this. You can see the diagram. Now, what is aquaculture? It is a method of farming aquatic animals under controlled circumstances, and it is performed in both freshwater and saltwater bodies. Okay, so aquaculture does not means only about fishes, it means about aquatic animals. Mariculture, it is a branch of aquaculture, hence a method of fish farming under controlled environment. It is performed in the ocean, a particular section of the ocean, or in the tanks that are filled with seawater only. Next is composite fish culture. In composite fish culture, fishes are grown along with rice crop in the paddy fields. In this method, combination of 5-6 local as well as foreign fishes is grown in a single pond. Such species are selected because they have different food habits and would not compete for the food with each other. Some of them are surface feeders, means they feed on the surface. Some are middle zone feeder, and while others are the bottom feeders. I hope it is clear. Surface, then middle, and then the bottom. So that's why they have different food habits and they would not compete for the food with each other, and hence there will be no competition for the food. They would rather eat all the food in the pond, and as a result the fish yield in the pond also increases. What are the examples? The catlas, these are the surface feeders. Rohu, the middle feeders. Mrigal, bottom feeders. Common carps, the bottom feeders. Grass crabs, that is the aquatic weed eaters. They are the weed in aquatic bodies also, that are often grown together in composite fish cultures. So the catlas, rohu, mrigal, common carps, grass crabs, etc. Clear? So this was about fisheries. Next that comes in the animal husbandry is beekeeping. Bee farming is performed in bee farms or apiaries. Many farmers perform beekeeping as a mean of generating additional income because honey is widely used product, bee farming is not very expensive, and they also generate wax along with honey. Okay, many of you must have seen in the remote areas, or you can see that in the rural areas, there are the boxes that are kept, okay, line wise, various boxes. So these boxes, like white color boxes, that are kept, and in those the bee is reared or the cultured. Okay, so it is the bee farming, it is performed in bee farms or apiaries. It is very important, or it is very good, as it is the means of generating additional income. This is the bee farming, you can see. Now bees used for commercial and honey production. Indian bee, that is Apis cerana indica, or commonly known as Apis indica also. Next one, Apis dorsata, the rock bee. Then is the Apis florii, the little bee. And next, Apis mellifera, the Italian variety of bee. So these are some of the bees that are used for commercial honey production. Okay, these names are very important. Okay. These are different kinds of bee. Now, castes in honeybee. The honeybees build a nest which is called as beehive. A hive contains almost 10,000 to 60,000 bees, and they live together in a colony and divide themselves into three different castes. What are they? The queen bee, the drone bee, and the worker bees. Queen bee. The fertile functional female of all is the queen bee. It is the supreme bee in the colony. Drone bees, they are the smaller male bees of the colony. Their main task is to maintain the hive. The worker bees, they are the smallest in size but the most active members of the hive. They perform different functions such as collecting pollens, nectar, constructing the comb, cleaning the cells of the hive. Okay, so the queen bee, the drone bee, and the worker bee. Now, why Italian bees are popular in bee farming? See, if they are popular, it means they will be giving a good amount of quality also, and good amount of honey also. Now, that is the main reason why Italian bees are popular. They produce large amount of honey. They do not sting much, and the breeding period in Italian bees is long. the factors that determine the quality of honey, the honey that is produced from the bee. Along with the choice of selection of the bee species, the flowers decide the quality, quantity, and the taste of honey produced. Why? Because the bees flow and they suck the nectar from the flowers. So definitely, along with the choice of the selection of the bee species, the flowers also decide the quality and the quantity and the taste of honey produced. There should also be enough pasturage or availability of the flowers to the bees so that they can collect enough nectar and pollen. Definitely, they need more amount of or a good amount of flowers because it is their food. Okay, so that they can produce enough honey. Clear? So this was about bee farming. So in the animal husbandry, we talked about four: the poultry farming, the fisheries, the cattle farming, and the last, the bee farming or the bee keeping. Okay, very important topic, the animal husbandry. Okay, go through it again, make the proper notes of this chapter. Okay, as the chapter is now completed. Okay, you have to make the proper notes of the chapter, and the names in this chapter are very important. Okay, for example, the bees and all that. Okay, so keep studying, stay inside your house, and take care of yourselves. Thank you very much.